Hello, good evening. I am Nadine Carty-Keynes, and thank you for joining us at the Nevis Emergency Operations Center, EOC, today, Monday, 26 October 2020, for an update on the situation regarding the novel coronavirus, COVID-19, here on our island, Nevis. I want to take this opportunity, as usual, to thank our media houses and to thank you, our viewers, for joining us every Monday as we provide our updates. Again, all questions will be taken at the end after all of our presenters would have presented. The COVID-19 briefings are aired on Mondays at 8:30 p.m. on Nevis Television. And just to remind you, you can always look at the briefings on the YouTube and Facebook pages of Nevis Television, Nevis HPU, and Nevis NDMD. Also, you can listen to the briefing on Von Radio every Tuesday at 1 p.m. With us this evening, we have Mr. Brian Dyer, who is the Director of the Nevis Emergency Operations Center, Superintendent Lyndon David, in charge of Nevis Division of the Royal St. Kitts and Nevis Police Force, Dr. Judy Nisbet, Chair of the COVID-19 Taskforce, and Mr. Oral Brandy, General Manager of the Nevis Air and Seaports Authority, NASPA, who will provide their updates for us this evening. First, I'd like to welcome Mr. Brian Dyer, who will provide his updates.
Good evening, all. Thank you for joining us again. As usual, we start with some weather information. Currently, there is one major tropical weather system in the Caribbean Sea approaching the Yucatan Peninsula. Tropical storm Zeta, intermediate advisory, October 26. Summary as of 1800 UTC. Tropical storm Zeta was located near latitude 19.3 north, 85.6 degrees west, or about 120 miles southeast of Cozumel, Mexico. Maximum sustained winds 17 miles per hour, and present movement northwest at 10 miles per hour. Minimum central pressure 986 millibars or 29.12 inches. Rainfall expected through the passage of Tropical Storm Zeta 4 to 8 inches, with locally heavy amounts up to 12 inches are possible through Tuesday. We are 1 more month to go before the end of the hurricane season, and so far we have been spared, but we still want persons to continue to be vigilant as we continue to see tropical waves approaching the islands and producing some rainfall, which is much needed with our farmers. And moving on, we'd like to now look at the information from the Compliance Task Force. They are still in the business of inspecting businesses and government offices. To date, they have inspected 9 bakeries and delis, banks and finance institutions 14, buses, taxis and ferry 91, game rooms 2, gas stations 9, government buildings and departments 106, laundromats 3, market vendors 4, mechanic shops 17, offices 88, pharmacies 2, restaurants 29, salons, spas, barbershops 24, shops 28, snackettes 61, stores 61, street vendors 11, supermarkets 8, funeral home 3, gyms 3, wholesale 2, radio station and communications 2, manufacturing 10, hotels and guest houses 7, revisits and observation are now total at 511, and church visits are now stands at 227, educational institution visits 93, grand total 1,436 places that have been visited and monitored by the Compliance Task Force. We want to say a special thank you to them as they continue to ensure that the SRNO guidelines are being adhered to. Finally, the Borders of St. Kitts and Nevis will be open come Saturday, 31st of October. I'd like to appeal to our taxi drivers who are yet to complete the separation between the driver and passengers. Please be advised, if you would like to participate in the tourism trade of transporting passengers to and from the franchise hotels and to the quarantine facility, please ensure that this partition is installed in your van and inspected by the Ministry of Tourism before on Saturday. So thank you very much, and continue to obey the SRNO 47 as would be expounded upon by Superintendent Lyndon David. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Dyer. And I allow Superintendent David to now give his updates as a follow-up to the last part of what Mr. Dyer would have expressed. Superintendent David.
Thank you very much, Nadine. Good evening, all. It's a pleasure to be back to provide some stats and give some guidance regarding the current regulations. As starters, I will just give you some statistical data. We have conducted thus far 2,163 mobile patrols and foot patrols, 160 vehicular checkpoints were conducted, 98 persons arrested during the state of emergency period, 10 persons were charged regarding to COVID-19 related offenses. We had 32 crimes reported and 22 persons were arrested. We had 10,020 vehicles stopped. 26 persons were informed that there will be summons for various offenses. We are encouraging all hoteliers to continue to put the necessary systems in place to ensure that they are ready for the reopening of our borders. And we know that you and the staff are basically in a more disadvantageous position wherein you have to ensure that on a daily basis, once you have guests, you have safety at the top of your agenda. High school students and secondary school students are still being seen in the public places without wearing their mask. We're saying to you, once again, protect yourselves, ensure that you are complying as well. Your parents or your elderly parents, grandparents as well, maybe at home, and if for some reason you catch the virus, look at the repercussions that we are facing. So we're encouraging you, practice to wear the mask now. The time will come, which is just a few days away, before our borders open, which heighten our vigilance and our concern regarding COVID-19. Again, I am calling on all managers and supervisors of businesses and heads of government departments to ensure that persons entering your facilities are wearing a mask, their hands sanitizing, and also the employees. I have entered a few places and I've seen where a lot of improvements are being made. I say to you, keep it up, and let us ensure that we continue to protect our country. Persons who are operating bars and restaurants, we're saying to you, continue to follow the protocols. I've seen persons, yes, you're trying, but the problem do come in is when a person does not enter with a mask. We're saying to you persons, comply with the instructions given to you by these persons who want to serve you. But if you're failing to comply, they have the opportunity to deny you service or entry. So ensure that you comply and make it much easier for all of us. Again, all persons involved in sports, we are saying to you, continue to comply. We have seen some shortcomings, but we know that as we go along, we'll get it right. Remember, not only persons in the federation will be attending to your sporting activities, but we may have someone who comes in, who attend. So therefore, the risk has increased. So ensure that all protocols are followed and continue to speak to everyone concerned. Persons who are operating the various public service vehicles and vessels, we're saying to you, encourage your staff to insist that passengers comply with the recommendations given in order to prevent the spread of COVID-19 in our country. So, I've seen where many of you are trying, but yet still we have some improvement to make. Continue to improve them. Make sure that we have it right by the time our borders are open. The general public is reminded that all quarantine sites are strictly forbidden. No one should visit them for any reason whatsoever. If you have a concern or you want to speak to someone or deliver something, you have to speak with Mr. Brian Dye and his staff at the disaster department. So, in conclusion, let me thank God for his continued protection over our federation and all who involved, so that we are seeing the results what we are seeing now. We have to give God thanks and praise for that. The governments, both local and federal government, for their continued support, whether it be financial or vehicles, whatever they provide, including the regulations to ensure that we are doing what we are doing. The staff of the Royal St. Christopher Nevis Police Force here in the division for your continued efforts. Yes, there will be some shortcomings, but we are saying to you, continue to do what is right to ensure that our population is seeing that we are putting out what we are putting out. Medical staff, disaster staff, for your hard work and continued support, we are saying to you, thank you. All other essential workers, without you, our country would never have gotten back on its feet as quickly as possible. So we're saying thanks to you. The media, yes, we want to thank you for helping us to get our message out, and also for hearing the complaints of other persons so that we too can get our act together to get it right. Those citizens who continue to support us, we're saying to you, we appreciate it. All the information you would have given, a criticism here and there, also help us to build. And the persons who continue to violate, we are saying to you, this is not the time. Crunch time is coming so that you can get on board. It's not when you are now infected, you will say, if I didn't know. You know, that always comes after something has gone wrong. Thank you very much, and do enjoy the rest of the evening.
Thank you, Superintendent David. I'll now welcome Dr. Judy Nisbet, Chair of the Nevis COVID-19 Task Force.
Thank you, Mrs. Cathy Keynes, and good evening to everyone. We start with the global figures today. The number of confirmed COVID-19 cases worldwide stand at 42,745,212 cases, with over 424,000 reported in the last 24 hours. The cumulative death toll stands at 1,150,961 worldwide. These figures have been reported by the World Health Organization. The United States of America has recorded the most cases worldwide, totaling 8.5 million thus far, with a notably sharp increase in the daily totals over the past week of over 82,000 cases recorded daily. India has recorded over 7.9 million cases, followed by Brazil with over 5.3 million cases since the start of the pandemic. Now, looking at our region, the 33 countries, territories, and areas of the Caribbean region have reported over 254,000 cases, with most cases recorded in the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico. There have been over 4,296 deaths. Of the confirmed cases, however, 151,623 have recovered. On Nevis, we have tested a total of 448 persons thus far, with 441 persons testing negative, 6 testing positive, with all 6 recovering. We have had no deaths, and no one is presently in isolation. there is one test pending. So in total then, St. Kitts and Nevis has recorded a total of 19 cases, with all 19 recovered. There are currently 21 persons in quarantine in Nevis and 432 persons released thus far. We continue to ask persons to practice the measures to prevent transmission of COVID-19. These include, as we all know, frequent and thorough hand washing, wearing of your mask in public spaces, physical distancing, maintaining physical distance of 6 feet from others, at least 6 feet, social distancing, and we also continue to ask persons, in addition, to try to keep your hands out of your face as much as possible so that you don't transmit the virus to your mucous membranes. And if you become ill with respiratory symptoms, to seek medical care. However, always call ahead before going to a health facility. So please let us all continue to stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Judy Nisbet. And now welcome Mr. Oral Brandy, General Manager of the Nevis Air and Seaports Authority, to provide an update for us.
Good evening, viewers. Over the past few months, the Nevis Air and Seaports Authority has been working in conjunction with the Nevis Taskforce to prevent, or at least to reduce, the risk of the COVID-19 pandemic affecting our country. More recently, and prior to the announcement of a date for the reopening of our borders, we set about putting measures in place for the inevitable, that is, welcoming nationals and visitors once again to our shores. I am pleased to say that NASPA will be ready for the October 31st reopening of the borders. Much work has been done at our borders, at the ports, and procedures put in place for that date. We have retrofitted all public counters for easy cleaning, install cough or sneeze guards at all areas with customer interactions. Example, at cashiers, security, airline, and agent counters, and also at customs and immigration. We are making greater use of technology by using self-cleaning surfaces on all doors and automatic faucets in bathrooms. We have also installed automatic doors in high-traffic areas. A health facility has been constructed at the Vance W. Army International Airport for passenger screening and a lab for testing. There is an isolation room, waiting room, and additional restrooms. Security procedures have been enhanced to allow for less human-to-human contact. According to ICAO, International Civil Aviation Organization, passengers are allowed to carry as much as a 12-ounce bottle with hand sanitizer. All other security procedures remain in place. All incoming cargo and airline baggage into the airport and seaports will be disinfected. We have done detailed cleaning at all ports to create a healthier environment. There will also be scheduled fogging of all ports with the use of hospital-grade disinfectant. All security and cargo personnel will be provided with personal protective gear, which includes face shield, sanitizers, gloves, etc. Hazardous waste disposal procedures established across all the ports will also be there. We have doubled our hand sanitizing stations across all ports to include automatic and manual machines. There is increased signage promoting healthy lifestyle and procedures established. All of our employees have been trained with regard to COVID-19 requirements and procedures and the duties that they perform. The general public should know that only passengers traveling will be allowed beyond the drop-off point at the airport. Closing, I want to reassure the general public that we at NASPA will continue to take every measure possible to protect the traveling public as together we fight this virus for the good of all of us.
Thank you so much, Mr. Brandy, for your update. I'd now like to open up for questions from our media persons. I do have a question, two questions here from Daniel Moore of On Radio. First one is for Superintendent David. Can you provide an update on the arson incidents of Vincent Perkins boats and finished touch vehicles?
Thank you very much for that question. With regard to the fire with the boats, that matter is still under investigations. We have done a number of scientific examination of the scene. We have persons who were taken into custody, questioned. No one has yet since been charged. However, we continue our investigations. At this time, I'm requesting persons who may have any information to provide that with the police so that we can bring closure to this matter. We know that there are many persons who would like to see crime solved, but at the same time they're concerned. But we're saying you can provide information anonymously. Just find an officer who you would like to share that information with and provide it. I am also one of those persons with whom you can share that information. With regard to finishing touch, that was an incident that took place just a few days ago. That matter is currently under investigations, and we are appealing to persons to provide whatever information you may have regarding this matter. We are a bit concerned regarding these fires because we realize that these are businesses that are being having their property damaged by fire, and their property are what they use to conduct their business. So we are saying to persons that whatever information you may have, provide to the police so that we can investigate these matters properly and bring the perpetrators to justice. Thank you very much.
Second question from Daniel Moore. Will there be COVID-19 designated taxi operators and upgraded vehicles operating in Nevis when the borders reopen? If so, what adjustments are made to those designated vehicles? Mr. Brian Dyer.
Thank you for that question. With regards to the taxis, the Ministry of Tourism and the Tourism Authority have conducted training for all taxi operators and persons involved in the tourism trade. Specifically with regards to taxi operators, they are required to upgrade their vehicles with installing a barrier between the driver position and the passenger seats. That barrier can be made of plastic or plexiglass and installed permanently or can be removed with regards to servicing of the vehicle, etc. And as part of the upgrade of these vehicles, it is required for the vehicle to be outfitted as well with a garbage or receptacle that is operated using your foot to ensure that the gloves that are being disposed of or tissues used in the bus can be properly disposed of. It is also a requirement for you, the drivers, to have hand sanitizers in your vehicle to ensure that your patrons and yourself can frequently wash your hands. It is important also that you have some gloves, disposable gloves, when handling the baggage from persons coming into the country from high-risk areas or moving passengers to the quarantine facility or to the designated hotels that will be open during the first phase of our opening of the borders. So again, yes, taxis are required to upgrade the vehicles with the specifics I just mentioned. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Dyer. Additionally, taxi operators are to have signage in their vehicle also saying, must wear a mask, must sanitize your hands, those type of stuff. Any further questions?
Monique Washington, I think it's of the newspaper. My question is to Mr. Brandy. He would have spoken a lot about the enhancements that have been made at the Vansami International Airport, but what other enhancements has been made to the other ports, as in the Charleston port and the Port port, as it relates to social distancing, wearing masks, and sanitization?
Thank you, Monique Washington. Mr. Brandy?
Thank you, Ms. Washington, for that question. With regard to Orly Port and wearing masks, I mean, we expect that the general public would see by now the importance of doing so, but the security there would also enforce the mask wearing. As well as hand sanitizing station, that will be there as well. As a matter of fact, I believe that has been installed already. We would have about 2 or 3 stations at Orly. Charleston would have more detailed work done. We would have hand sanitizing stations there. The security officers, they have been making sure that people wear their masks. And we would also have a facility there for the different agencies, which would be closer to the shore area. And so we have been putting some things in place to make sure that we are ready, not just at the airport, but at the seaports as well.
Thank you, Mr. Brandy.
My last question is to Mr. Lyndon David. He would have spoken about children not wearing masks, and he would have asked, plead and urge for them to wear their masks. But what is the police doing, or anyone on the COVID-19 task force doing to ensure that children do wear masks, especially in public?
Allow Mr. Superintendent David, to address your question.
Thank you very much, Monique. Currently, what we are doing, we are continue to educate the populace about the significance of wearing face masks. We will be initiating other things, but for now we are encouraging persons. We want persons to realize, look at it, that all of us do have to pay attention. It's a health issue, and we're expecting persons to take their health seriously and want to assist or help in preventing the spread of COVID-19 in our federation. We know that we have control over it in terms of the cases that were developed, or persons who came in and they were quarantined, and then after a period of quarantine, they were isolated, and after that, they're now back into community. Our borders will be opened up shortly. We do not know what will happen, but the chances of someone who would have gone through all the necessary things and then later develop COVID is much higher. So we are saying to persons, before that time comes, taking whatever information you can get at this time and apply it. So when that time comes, when we may have to prosecute persons, we may not have to do so, but we may have to do so based on what we are seeing. But we know that everything starts with the children. Speak to the children, they go home, tell mommy and daddy. Mommy and daddy will try their best to please son or daughter, and even grandpa and grandma. So we are saying that it is very important that the children pay attention. And we have seen in other countries where children are being infected, take it home, and persons home were infected. We do not want that to happen in St. Kitts and Nevis. So if we do not encourage them, we do not teach them, when the time comes, we will have a problem because many children go to school. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Superintendent David. Any further questions from Varna Radio?
The last question from the observer, and it is to Dr. Nevis. With the borders reopening and citizens still outside wanting to come back, and we're taking the opportunity now to come back, is there enough room at the quarantine sites to hold the amount of persons that might be wanting to come back, especially if their home isn't ready for them to stay at their home?
Thank you, Monica. Dr. Nisbet will take your question.
Thank you, Monique, for the question. In the event that we don't have enough rooms, we will have to do something about that in terms of possibly expanding the current quarantine site. So right now we have 24 rooms available to us at Potworks, and at OLE, I think up to 13 rooms. Now, if those are exceeded, we will have to find more rooms. Thank you.
Dr. Nesbitt, before you leave, can you give us an idea on about how many persons have applied or are in waiting to come home?
I can't give a number right now because the process of applying, it's going to be an online application. That link is not yet live, so persons are not all able to apply. We have had some applications coming through in terms of the repatriation in a similar manner as when we were repatriating. So we have a little idea that perhaps about maybe 25 so far, but I'm not sure how many will apply once the link goes live. But bear in mind that some of these persons, they're not all applying to be quarantined at the facilities. Some of these are applying to be quarantined at home.
Thank you. Thank you.
So thank you all for your presentation this evening. Thank you for your updates, and thank you for answering the questions by our media persons. And again, I want to remind persons that our borders are opening on October 31st. Inform yourself, be prepared, and practice all of what we've been advocating for the past several months to protect yourself and your family from COVID-19. The power is truly in your hands. Keep them clean, and therefore you should minimize the risk. And of course, Dr. Nisbet would have highlighted all that you need to do to protect yourself and protect your family and protect this lovely island we call home, and to make sure that we don't have a lot of cases on Nevis. I want to say thank you to the Nevis Disaster Management Team, Nevis Television and the staff there, Caribbean Digital Display Limited, Cornerstone, the staff of the Health Promotion Unit, and the Nevis Taskforce for making this briefing possible. I want to say thank you for viewing. I am Nadine Carty-Keynes, and I hope to see you next Monday as we provide another update in this COVID-19 era that we're dealing with. Please do stay safe.